Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Weekly 7 with me, your host, Monroe Mann.
Hi, welcome. My name is Monroe Mann. Welcome to the Weekly 7 News. Today's stories, we're going to talk about the Democrats and Donald Trump, the world story, the Thai cave rescue, and an update on the World Cup. Travel, I'm going to explain how I've been enjoying the TSA Precheck program. Entertainment, we're going to talk about some Chinese limits on salaries. And in politics, we're going to talk about Chinese censorship and how there's one aspect of it that's pretty great. Tech science, we're going to talk about some new features on the Apple iPhone, and then finally I'm going to talk to you about laziness. So let's get started talking about the Democrats and the fact that if they want any chance of winning the presidency in 2020, they better stop being so loopy, weird, wacky, and far left field, because they're kind of becoming laughable at this point. We are not a communist country, despite the fact that people in New York and LA would like you to think that that's the direction we're headed. You cannot win elections for the presidency in this country by only appealing to people in New York and LA. You have to offer solutions for everybody, for rich and for poor, black and white. These latest calls to abolish ICE, these latest calls to impeach Trump, these latest calls to actually accost members of Trump's cabinet and let them know that they are not welcome in this country, which is what Maxine Waters said. Is this really what the Democrats stand for? Because if so, they should be extremely embarrassed and ashamed of themselves, because they're not going to win any more elections. It was this precise, cocky, arrogant, egotistical, elitist attitude that cost them the election in 2016. I thought by now that they would have learned something, but they haven't. They're using the exact same techniques. They're using the exact same playbook. They have no new ideas. Or they do have new ideas, but they are so far out there that they're just alienating most of America. So that's great that Maxine Waters is rallying up some people on the East Coast and the West Coast, but if you don't win America, the entire country, you lose. So I agree with not only Michael Moore, but also Bill Maher. Both of them agree that Donald Trump is going to win. I predicted Donald Trump was going to win back in 2016, and I'm pretty certain at this point that he is going to win in 2020. Do the Democrats have a shot? Yeah, if they change their tune. Right now, with every single thing the Democrats say and do, they are going down a deeper and deeper hole of no return. So let's see what happens. For the world story, in Thailand, there's a youth soccer team that's unfortunately caught in a cave. It's probably about 20 of them, and they have Navy SEALs from the United States, I believe. They also have Navy SEALs from Thailand. Hundreds and hundreds of people are trying to save these poor kids, and they've only got a few more days, so let's keep them in our prayers and hope that they can be found. In some happier world news, Russia has, for the first time in 40 years, advanced to the quarterfinals in the World Cup. And not only did they do this, but they did this against the 2010 victors, Spain. This is on top of the fact that Messi's team is out, Ronaldo's team is out. This is becoming a very interesting World Cup, and I'm usually not interested in the World Cup, but I actually am now because I'm so curious to see who is going to win. There's still about 2 more weeks of the World Cup, so if you haven't, check your listings and start watching it, because it's actually getting pretty exciting. And for the travel story, I have officially now used my global entry / TSA Precheck certification. I went on a trip down to Florida, so this wasn't global entry. Global entry allows you to come back into the country without having to go through customs. Pretty cool. I can't wait till I go to Shanghai again and come back and sail right through. But if you don't have TSA Precheck, get it. It's amazing. If you're flying anywhere, even if you're going to China, you don't have to take off your shoes, you don't have to take off your belt, you don't have to wait in a long line, you skip right to the head, you don't have to open up your suitcase, you don't have to remove your computer, you don't have to show them your toiletry bag. Literally, I get through security every time now, both at LaGuardia and also at Jacksonville International. I got through in less than 5 minutes. So I give it my full stamp of approval. If you haven't, it costs $100. I think it's even less if you just get Precheck, and it's worth every single penny. For the entertainment story, China has put a limit on how much film stars can actually make. And before you get all up in arms, it's actually kind of interesting. Yes, it's, I guess, quote unquote, the government getting involved with the free market, but in some ways I think it's maybe good. What it is exactly is a lead of a movie. Their salary from this point forward can never be more than 70% of the total cast budget. And I think that in some ways I think it's good, because I even here in Hollywood, I think people are getting paid way too much money. And a lot of times the movies are still flops. During my PhD studies, I did some study of the correlation between whether a movie star actually results in bigger box office receipts. And it's not the case. I kind of understand this because I don't really think movie stars are all that crucial of an ingredient. Because there are a lot of blockbuster films who don't have any stars in them. And the reason why China's doing this, I believe, is to stem the corruption that's in China. There is a lot of it there, and they have something called yin and yang contracts. When they sign onto a film, they sign two contracts. One is the public contract, and the other is the private contract. The public contract is the yang, and let's say that one says $50,000, but then the private contract is the real contract, and it's for $1.3 million. So this way, these actors can avoid paying taxes to the government and blah, 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 blah. I haven't made a decision whether I think it's a good idea or not. It's certainly interesting. I'd love to see what you have to say in the comments. Staying on the topic of China and for the political story today, they have a lot of censorship. And the censorship is so widespread and ironclad that, yes, it hinders free speech, but in some ways, I almost feel it's freeing. I don't necessarily condone the way they handle things there. But when I lived there, let me tell you how pleasant it was knowing that no matter where we went, there was no political discussion. Nobody was getting up in arms about President Xi, or about the Communist Party, or the this, or the that, or who's the mayor, or why? Because you can't do anything about it, and you can't criticize it. And yes, on the surface, that's, of course, not a good thing. But it is good as long as the Chinese government continues to treat its people exceedingly well and engender a great economic turnout for its people. But I just think how much nicer the United States would be if we did not get so up in arms about politics. And I just see what's going on Fox News and CNN and NBC. It is absolutely terrible. And Hollywood is just going bonkers. You can't watch any late-night TV show if you're a supporter of Trump or if you're a conservative. 9 out of 10 jokes are just insulting half of America. I don't know what's going on here, but I don't like it. And while I don't like Communist China's way of dealing with this, I kind of feel like we've gone off the deep end in the other direction. And I really hope that we can get a grip, everybody. Because I'm tired of what's going on. Just really, really tired. And speaking of tired, for our tech science story, Apple very shortly is unleashing a new operating system for its phones. And it has a wonderful feature that I think is going to help a lot of us. It'll keep track of exactly how much time you spend using every single app, how many times you pick up the phone in a given day, and you can set alarms. So if you want the alarm to go off after 15 minutes of playing Candy Crush, it will, and it'll block out the app so you can't use it anymore for that day. I think there's an override feature, like you can snooze this or that, but I think it's going to help us all get off of our phones and get out into the world. Stop squandering time and start taking advantage of all the free time that we could be using for more productive purposes. The life skills story is also about time management, but in a different vein. It's about laziness. Basically, I want you to get off your ass and do what needs to be done. 9 times out of 10, we spend more time worrying about something we need to do rather than just doing it, which would only take 1/10 of the total time wasted. We squander time in analysis. If you would just get up and do it, you could get so much more done. I talk about this in more depth in the video I just posted, Get Off Your Ass, about laziness. I hope you'll check it out. Please subscribe down below if you like what you see. Please write a comment and stick around for the comedy, music, improv addendum, which is coming up. Later.